Welcome everyone. Here on the channel, I use AI to break down complex things like politics without bias or emotion. Now, if you ask someone why they love Donald Trump, they'll probably say something about the economy. A lot of people believe he'll boost the US economy over the next 4 years, and most importantly, make life better for a lot of American families. But the real question becomes, will he actually do that? Well, we're going to figure it out together today. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to predict the future of the US economy under Trump, break down his tariffs and how they'll impact average Americans, come up with its own plan to improve the economy, and finally, send a personal message to Donald Trump about whether he's on the right track or not. The plan? Well, it's simple. We're going to get into all of that in just a moment, but before we do me a quick favor, leave a like and subscribe to the channel right now while you're here. It'll tremendously help me out and ensure that you never miss out on any new videos which I publish every single week. Thanks so much, and now let's jump right into the chat. And here we are. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to be clear, straightforward, unbiased, and use only the latest information. But just to make sure that ChatGPT is up to speed with Trump's current policies, we'll begin by asking it for a quick explanation of his plans for the economy, and here's the answer. Trump's economic plan focuses on tariffs, fossil fuels, and strict immigration controls. He proposes a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% on Chinese goods, aiming to protect U.S. industries, but likely increasing consumer prices and risking trade retaliation. His rollback of clean energy incentives prioritizes fossil fuel production, claiming it will boost energy independence and jobs. He also plans mass deportations, targeting labor competition, but potentially harming industries reliant on immigrant workers. While he promises to revive manufacturing and create jobs, his approach risks higher costs for Americans, global trade tensions, and economic instability. Alright, well, seems like ChatGPT is totally up to date. And by the way, I'm going to ask it not to bring up Trump's immigration plan and mass deportation, since we've already broken that down and how it impacts the economy in a previous video. And if you missed it, be sure to check it out later. For now, we'll be talking about the tariffs. Many of you, like myself, probably have a general idea of what Trump's tariffs are about, but I want ChatGPT to break down the specifics and the mechanics, like how does it really work, who ends up paying in the end, and all of that. And here's its answer. Trump plans to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% on Chinese goods. His stated goal is to address trade imbalances, immigration issues, and drug trafficking. Here's how it works and what happens. Mechanics. A tariff is a tax on goods imported into the U.S. American companies importing products like cars, lumber, or electronics pay these tariffs directly to the U.S. government. Who pays? U.S. businesses pass those extra costs on to consumers by raising prices, so the average American ends up paying more for everyday goods, from groceries to appliances. Economic impact. Higher prices increase the cost of living for families. Retaliation by Canada, Mexico, or China could hurt American exporters, especially farmers and manufacturers, by making their products less competitive overseas. End result? Tariffs might protect some U.S. industries in the short term, but hurt consumers, disrupt trade relationships, and risk broader economic fallout, including inflation and job losses in export-dependent sectors. It's a tax on Americans, disguised as tough trade policy. So, for example, if Trump imposes a 25% tariff on Canada, doesn't that just mean that Canada wouldn't actually pay it, and the real burden would fall on American families who end up paying more? Exactly, you're 100% right. When Trump imposes a 25% tariff on imports from Canada, it's not Canada that pays, it's American companies that import those goods. Here's how it works. How tariffs work. When a U.S. company buys products from Canada, like lumber, cars, or food, it pays the 25% tariff to the U.S. government. Canada doesn't pay a dime. Who absorbs the cost? The importing company won't just eat the extra cost, they'll raise the prices of their products to maintain profits. This means average Americans pay more for those goods, whether it's at the grocery store, car dealership, or home improvement store. Canada's role. Canadian companies might adjust their prices slightly to stay competitive, but they're not the ones taking the hit. Most of the burden lands squarely on American consumers. Why it's bad for families. Higher prices for everyday goods directly impact household budgets. The cost of living goes up, inflation spikes, and average families get squeezed. The whole point of tariffs is to encourage people to buy American, but if there's no alternative for the goods, families have no choice but to pay more. So yes, tariffs like this are effectively a hidden tax on American families, not a punishment for Canada. Alright, got it. By the way, have you seen Trump's tweet about imposing 100% tariffs on imports from BRICS nations if they try to promote alternatives to the US dollar for trade? Let's ask ChatGPT what it thinks about this idea, and here's what it says. Imposing 100% tariffs on BRICS nations to counter their attempts to undermine the US dollar is a strong response, but it's not without flaws. The dollar's global dominance is critical for US economic stability, and ignoring these moves could have serious consequences. That said, a 100% tariff is extreme and risks backfiring. It could escalate into a full-blown trade war, disrupt global supply chains, and raise prices for American consumers. BRICS nations might double down on their anti-dollar efforts out of defiance, accelerating the shift away from the dollar instead of preventing it. The idea of confronting BRICS is smart. They can't be allowed to sideline the US in global finance, but the execution needs to be more strategic. Targeted measures like financial sanctions, incentivizing allies to stick with the dollar, or strengthening trade deals with other key economies would be far more effective. This approach needs finesse, not a hammer. Otherwise, the US risks creating as much harm for itself as for them. Good, but actually it's not even on the table. I mean, it's pretty unlikely that they'll even come up with anything close to the US dollar, don't you think? Anyway, enough about that. Now I want to predict the future of the US economy under Trump in detail and how it'll impact the average American family, and here's the answer. Under Trump, the US economy will likely see significant changes, but for the average American family, the impact won't be entirely positive. Here's what to expect. Tariffs and trade policy. Trump's reliance on tariffs, like the proposed 25% on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China, will make everyday goods more expensive. Families will pay more for cars, electronics, groceries, and other necessities. While some industries may benefit from reduced foreign competition, these tariffs will drive up consumer costs, leaving families with less disposable income. Retaliatory tariffs from trade partners will hurt exporters, particularly in agriculture, making certain goods scarcer and more expensive domestically. This creates a lopsided economy where the average household absorbs the majority of the pain. Energy and costs. Trump's focus on fossil fuels will likely lower energy costs in the short term, keeping gas and heating prices stable. However, rolling back investments in renewable energy will leave the US vulnerable to long-term energy price volatility. As global markets shift toward renewables, the US risks falling behind, which could eventually increase costs for American families as clean energy becomes the cheaper and dominant option globally. Inflation and cost of living. Tariffs will drive up prices, leading to inflation that directly impacts household budgets. Everyday items like food, clothing, and appliances will cost more. Families will feel the strain as their purchasing power declines, and even modest wage increases won't be enough to cover the rising cost of living. Overall impact on the average American family? Costs rise. Tariffs on imports will lead to higher prices for almost everything families rely on. Limited gains. Some industries may see benefits, but these won't trickle down meaningfully to most households. Economic uncertainty. The focus on short-term wins will create a volatile environment, making it harder for families to plan for the future. Will it be better or worse? For the average family, it will be worse. Rising costs and declining purchasing power will outweigh any limited benefits from domestic protectionism. Trump's policies may look strong on paper, but they'll leave many families struggling to make ends meet. Well then, what's the point of all of these economic policies if the average American family is going to end up living worse than they are now? The reason behind Trump's policies isn't about improving life for the average American. It's about control, power, and political strategy. Trump uses tariffs and trade wars to project strength, even if they end up making things more expensive for everyone. It's about rallying his base, convincing them that these measures protect American jobs, even when they don't deliver real benefits. Trump's focus on deregulation and fossil fuel expansion isn't aimed at helping families. It's about rewarding big corporations that profit from cutting costs and ignoring environmental concerns. These moves might create short-term wins that look good on the surface, but the long-term effects like inflation and higher living costs hit regular people the hardest. This isn't about practical solutions, it's about looking tough, dominating the headlines, and delivering favors to political allies. For Trump, the average family struggles aren't the priority. They're just collateral damage in his pursuit of power and control. Wow! Alright, after everything we've covered today, I'm going to ask it to come up with its own plan for the economy and then deliver a personal message to Donald Trump telling him exactly what it thinks. But before we move on, make sure to give this video a like. It's super easy, it only takes a couple of moments and really helps to keep the content coming. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss out on any of my new videos that I post every single week. Thanks so much, and with all that said, let's move on to ChatGPT's plan. Alright ChatGPT, give me your own plan for the US economy if you were in Trump's shoes. What would you do, what would you aim for, and how would you get those results? If I were in Trump's shoes, my focus would be on delivering real benefits to American families without the flashy over-the-top moves that end up backfiring. The goal would be simple: keep costs down, create jobs, and ensure the United States stays competitive in the long run. Here's what I'd do. First, I wouldn't rely on blanket tariffs that raise prices for everyone. Instead, I'd incentivize companies to bring manufacturing back home with tax breaks and support for automation that doesn't destroy jobs. The key is making it cheaper and easier to produce goods here without forcing Americans to pay more for everyday items. Energy would be another priority, but not going all in on fossil fuels alone. I'd keep oil and gas production steady for now while heavily investing in renewables like wind, solar, and nuclear. These industries are where the future is headed, and the US should lead, not follow. Families would see stable energy costs now and cheaper, cleaner energy in the future. Infrastructure is another area that needs real attention. I'd push for a massive investment in roads, bridges, broadband, and energy grids. This isn't just about creating construction jobs, it's about setting up the economy to run more efficiently and attract businesses to stay and expand here. I'd also focus on making sure workers are ready for the jobs of tomorrow. That means better job training programs tailored to industries like tech, healthcare, and green energy. It's not about clinging to old industries, it's about giving people the tools to adapt and thrive in a changing economy. Trade would need a smarter approach too. Instead of tariffs that hit consumers, I'd negotiate fairer trade deals that actually benefit US workers and businesses. Targeted action against unfair practices would make more sense than blanket policies that cause more harm than good. For families, this plan would mean lower costs, better paying jobs, and an economy that's built for the future. It's about practical solutions that make life easier and keep the country strong, not short-term wins that create long-term headaches. That's how you get real results. Got it. The plan sounds pretty decent, but what do you think? Do you think it's actually better than Trump's plan? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I want ChatGPT to send a direct and personal message to Trump and tell him exactly what it thinks about his plan. And here's the answer. Donald, let me be honest with you. Your approach is bold, but it's not working for the average American family. The tariffs? They're hurting more than they're helping. Sure, they look tough and they give the appearance of standing up for America, but the reality is they're raising prices for families and businesses. People are paying more at the grocery store, more for appliances, more for cars, and that's a tax on the very people you say you're fighting for. Yes, bringing manufacturing back and protecting industries is important, but the way you're going about it is making it harder for families to make ends meet. Tariffs are blunt tools, and while they might score political points, they're not fixing the deeper issues. You need smarter trade deals, not trade wars, negotiation, not retaliation, and the energy focus, doubling down on fossil fuels while ignoring renewables. It's short-term thinking. The world is moving toward cleaner energy, and America should be leading the charge, not clinging to the past. You can support oil and gas without missing out on the trillion-dollar opportunities in solar, wind, and nuclear. Families want affordable bills now and a future that's sustainable for their kids. You're aiming for strength, and I respect that, but strength doesn't mean breaking things. Strength is about balance, lifting American families while keeping businesses competitive. Right now, you're making noise, but you're not delivering results where it matters most. At the kitchen table, where families are struggling with higher prices and less certainty. If you really want to make America great, focus on solutions that actually help Americans, not just moves that grab headlines. And that's it. Let me know in the comments if you agree with ChatGPT or not, and what you think about its plan for the economy. And right after that, click on this video where ChatGPT breaks down Trump's mass deportation plan in detail and comes up with its very own way to address the immigration issue. Thanks for watching, click on that video, and I'll see you over there in just a moment.